You will need to have a sheet of paper out because you will eventually be taking notes. When it is time to take notes on your paper, I will make sure it's incredibly clear what you need to write down. First of all, I'd like to show you this is a picture of E. coli. E. coli is a bacteria that is commonly found in intestines, but there are also some very dangerous versions of this E. coli bacteria that you've probably heard about. So it's important to be able to recognize them. Now, we wouldn't be able to see these with just normal vision. We have to look under a microscope, and then they're still sort of difficult to see. So in this case, you can see that there's a green color here. They put on the slide that was under the microscope some green dye so that the E. coli would be easier to view. Now, notice some characteristics of this bacteria. It has these hair-like protrusions coming from it. They tend to cluster. They're a rod shape, cylindrical shape. And if you look really carefully, especially on this one, you can see that it doesn't have a smooth surface, but in fact, it has a rough surface. So what I've done is I've listed some of these traits of E. coli already. And you're going to need to copy these on your paper, but first I'd like you to title the top of your paper E. coli. And so you would be writing this on your paper. E. coli undergoes asexual reproduction. And if you recall, any organisms that undergo asexual reproduction do so by a cell division process called mitosis. So we are going to get the gist of how mitosis works. So I would take a moment, pause this video, and you need to write down on your paper mitosis, E. coli reproduces asexually, and list these three traits of E. coli. And then hit play when you are done. So, when I am talking about these traits, I don't want to write out all of these words for the traits every single time. So, instead of writing hair like fingers, I'm just going to put a capital H to stand for that. Their rough surface, I'm going to use a capital R, and you know that that's my abbreviation for that. And then their cylindrical shape, I'll just put that with a C. Now, I want to show you the gist of mitosis. Now, realize when I show you this gist that it is going to definitely be a simplified version. So, don't worry about writing anything down for a moment. Just watch this. This is, let's pretend that that's a cell that an E. coli has. And in that cell, there is the genetic information that tells it you have hair like appendages coming out from you. You have a rough surface and you have a cylindrical shape. Now, things that reproduce asexually, keep in mind they only have one set of genetic information because when they reproduce, they only got their information from one parent. So, if this piece of E. coli, and it has a lot more traits than just this, but right, we're simplifying. If it's going to reproduce, what should this cell do? So the first thing that this cell should do is it should duplicate itself. So you can see it's going to take all of its genetic information and it's just going to double it. And now that it's doubled it, it's one step closer to creating some offspring. Now I'm going to remove this arrow. You know that this cell just duplicated itself. That's a process going on there. But now that we have this cell, at this point what occurs is this cell divides. And when this cell divides, it takes the information that it duplicated and it puts some of it over here and it puts some of it over here. And there we go. Now, if you'll notice, this is now officially the offspring down here. And if you look, this offspring is genetically identical to the original parent. This offspring is genetically identical to the other offspring. And remember, in asexual reproduction, ultimately we create clones. They're genetically identical. So as a review, this is mitosis. This happens in terms of reproduction, it only happens in asexual reproduction. We're going to find out humans do mitosis. We just don't create offspring this way, we don't create babies this way. And if you were to look at this, you should recognize that there is only one time cell division takes place. And that one time that cell division takes place is when this one cell divides into two. So that was just one cell division. That's one of the ways you can recognize mitosis. You have one cell, and then you end up just one cell division right there. By the way, another little side note, these cells down here that I just covered up, those are referred to as daughter cells. And when you look at mitosis, you always produce two daughter cells in the end. So on your paper, you would want to copy this down. Now, right, you already have this written down, that this happens in asexual reproduction. You already have down that this is called mitosis. So I'm going to move this to the side. So on your paper, and I will do this also, so just so you can see what it'll look like, right? You also have those traits here. You're just going to show that you started with a cell. Let's see, I had RC. Then it duplicated itself. And then it divided. And I would write myself little notes like this and this are two daughter cells. And that one cell division took place right here. And that is mitosis. Now, these cells are available to divide and generate and create more offspring, and the original parent as well.